Hey everyone, and welcome to the Level Up podcast. I am Alan Perry, here with my two best friends, Spencer and Drew. And we are coming to you today to talk about Modern Warfare, the newest title from Infinity Ward. The game's been out now for, I guess, about a month or two, getting a lot of mixed reviews, as I mentioned before in the first podcast about Modern Warfare. It's been pretty polarizing, a lot of love, a lot of hate. So, Spencer, Drew, I just want to get you guys' initial take and thoughts on, I guess, how you like the game, things you love about it, things you hate about it, and just a general feeling towards what Infinity Ward's done so far with this Call of Duty.
Yeah, I mean, I think over the past couple of years that, some people would maybe say some positive things in terms of Black Ops 4 and some of the other games, but I think all of us have kind of had down periods with Call of Duty. I know I have. I think this game, in terms of its gunplay, has been really, really refreshing. I think it actually feels better than a lot of the other Call of Duties we've had in the past few years. And I've even talked to a few other people just outside of us that have even mentioned the fact that, while there's things that I get frustrated about, which I'll touch on in a second, I'd keep finding myself coming back to it. And I know for a fact that I've played this game already more than I played Infinite Warfare, for example. Overall, I think the game itself, like I mentioned, feels really, really good. There are some other issues on that I feel, we'll touch on throughout the kind of the podcast and everything. But there are things that I feel like if are not fixed, will ultimately end up making me stop playing this game.
All right. I agree with a lot of that. Drew, what about you, bud?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I felt like this was like a nostalgia hit for me, for sure. Coming out with playing Modern Warfare, the original one, and Modern Warfare 2. It was a excitement type of thing, having the boots on the ground type of gameplay from Advanced Warfare. But I think it needs some work. It needs a lot of work. But it's a great start if they keep being responsive to the player base rather than trying to make some cash cow video game.
That's one thing I will say that you just touched on, like the responsive part. I don't remember a Call of Duty in which the devs have been as quick to introduce either small nerfs or even the DLC. It's crazy. We've had the one DLC already come out with Shoot House, and then we've got another one coming out in the next couple of days, which we can talk about later as well. But I will give them credit to that, even though they haven't seemed super happy about it at times with some of the comments they've made. But they have at least been quick.
Yeah, I think one thing that's kind of crazy about that is, I mean, if you see some of the people that have posted stuff online, like stuff that they've read out of like the upcoming patch notes or whatever it is, some of the data miners online have said that they've got like 40 or 50 maps they're planning on releasing and that have like already been made. And so, if you do that over the course of the year of a game, you're looking at like 4 maps a month, which is kind of insane. I mean, that means they're releasing another DLC essentially probably twice a month, maybe once a month, but if they do it once a month, it's going to be huge every time. But to touch on what some of you like stuff you guys have talked about already, like they've done a great job at responding to a lot of what the community's been complaining about or hasn't liked. It definitely seems like they've had their own initiative that they wanted to try and force down our throats a little bit with some of the things they wanted to do, and by some of the comments that they've made, they haven't been super pleased with some of the complaints, but others they've been quick to address. So I do think that, like y'all have said, that the game with the gunplay and some of the other things that they did a really good job on keeps you coming back and keeps you so satisfied that you want to keep holding out hope that they're going to fix some of, I guess, the deficiencies or things that we find frustrating. I mean, it's refreshing to go back and have something that doesn't have jetpacks and all this uber fast movement that gets really frustrating, but then it's like they slowed it down so much now that at times it doesn't even feel like the same game in terms of play style or in terms of the speed. So yeah, I think and Spencer, something you mentioned before we got on here was that it seems like they're kind of drawing from potentially other titles as opposed to what Call of Duty's traditionally been. So one of the ones we mentioned was kind of Rainbow Six Siege, where it's very obvious that they've pulled the mounting function straight out of that game. And that's a feature that I thought was really cool in Rainbow Six Siege, but I kind of wish it just stayed in Rainbow Six Siege and didn't come making its way into something that's supposed to be a lot more fast paced.
So yeah, that's the kind of thing that the thing that kind of worries me though is about the future of the game is that because it's pulling from so many titles, I feel like it's lost its identity as Call of Duty in a sense. While it still very much feels like COD when you play it, you sit down and you play the game, you can tell it's Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
But between Ground War pretty much being a Battlefield carbon copy, between the Mountain, like you already addressed, being a Siege carbon copy, the health is extremely low. You die really fast. And all these lend toward the slower playstyle, like you mentioned. But the issue is with the slower playstyle is the map design that they currently have, with it being very cluttered, and it creates a randomness element in the game that in Call of Duty has not been there before. All right, typically Call of Duty in the past, with you have your 3-lane maps, which are fairly predictable in the gameplay, which in my opinion at least makes the game more competitive. The randomness element to me is not something that I like, which, yes, they can introduce new maps in the future, which they seem to be doing. It does concern me a little bit in terms of the current, like the health limit that we have in the game, with how fast you die, the time to kill, how the game is actually flowing throughout the current maps.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems too is like when you have the maps set up the way that they are, so that there's so many different places someone can come from. You can't check everywhere at once whenever you want to proceed, whether it's around a corner, down a hallway, whatever it is. And then with the time to kill being so low, it's like a 2 or 3 bullet kill from close range. But then on top of that, when they release the game, the best gun in the game is a shotgun. So you're encouraging people to literally never move.
And claymores that you can restock over and over again.
Yeah, and then you have perks where you can restock all of your claymores and start off with 2, so you get 4. I just don't think, if that's what they wanted, then they certainly succeeded. But I don't think much of the community wanted that.
Well, that's the issue. I think they did what they wanted.
Yeah.
That's the thing that makes me a little bit nervous, is that I think they actually accomplished what they were trying to do.
The way I don't mean to cut you off, but the way I'm looking at it though too is like looking over the brief patch notes of the new release for the season 1. I mean, they're dropping 3 remakes of 3-lane maps from Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2. So it's almost like, all right, did they succeed in what they wanted to do? Hook, line, and sinker. Get all the shitty kids to play the game, get hooked on it, think they're good, and then roll out with all the old school maps that all the people like us, like, were insane at. And like maybe it's like, okay, yeah, the time to kill is so much shorter. It's like, well, now they have nowhere to hide. So like, you know what I mean?
A really interesting question about the new maps is if they plan to release them in the order that they are. Did they plan to release these 3-lane style older maps originally as some of the early DLC, or are they doing this due to the kind of the feedback that the community has been giving them? Because like both of y'all touched on in terms of the feedback that the devs have put in their notes, I really don't think this is what they're wanting. I think they're trying to kind of appease a little bit of everybody right now, to benefit and promote a little bit of a faster play style. Because the great thing about Call of Duty in the past is that you could run around like a chicken with your head cut off and do well, or you could play slow. You could do either thing. In this game, you just can't. At least I can't. Maybe I'm getting old though. I don't know.
Reflexes are slowing down.
Yeah, I can't keep up anymore, I guess. I've had a problem in the past CODs, but this one might be the kicker.
Well, no, and that was something I touched on in the first one, was talking about the way that like we used to play old Call of Duties, and it was like, I mentioned Black Ops 1, and the fact that every single gun in the game was usable. At least for me, being an AR and SMG player, every single gun in the game was usable, and it didn't feel like you were at a significant advantage or disadvantage by picking any one of the guns in those classes. And then on top of that, you had the ability, the game was so fast and it was so responsive, and the time to kill was a little bit higher. There wasn't as many places to camp. You could sprint around, and like part of the fun with those games to me traditionally has been, I want to be able to run around and have that moment where like, you see someone and they see you, and you each have the opportunity to like outskill the other person, where like, even if they get the first shot on you, you have the opportunity to try and turn on them and rip off chest or headshots and just be better than that person in that instance. And like this game to me has kind of robbed the community of that, or at least to me, that's how I feel about it. That moment doesn't really exist as much unless you and another player are sprinting straight at each other when you see each other. But Usually that's not what's happening. It's the player who sees the other person first is winning 95% of those gunfights, and I think that's just kind of boring, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, it promotes a slower playstyle, which, again, if I wanted to play slower, I would play something else. I don't.
Right, yeah.
I wouldn't play Call of Duty. I'd
No,
play PUBG. I'd play Rainbow Six or.
and that's where I think Call of Duty has in the past has carved out like its own niche and its own brand. Where like to me, there isn't another FPS game in that genre that fills that, or I guess is on par with where Call of Duty is and what their brand is. You've got stuff that plays faster, you've got the stuff that plays slower, but to me it's always been the perfect blend of those things, which is why I've logged more hours in that game than any game ever. And like we mentioned before, Rainbow Six Siege being the slowest of possible example. Then you've got your battle royale games, but then you've also got Halo where you've got shields and the time to kill is absurd. Or Call of Duty has just been that arcade shooter that just feels perfectly balanced and caters to all types of players. And this is really the first one to me that's felt like it's getting away from that identity, which I obviously hope, and it seems like we all hope they do something to start counteracting and don't keep doing in the future.
Do you think to do something in the future, do you think it's going to be more map related? Do you think it's time to kill related? Do you think it's going to be gun balancing, which we can touch on as well? What do you think is really going to kind of be the fix?
Drew, you go first.
I mean, I don't know. To me, I feel like the way that they're looking at rolling out season 1 and the way that they've already patched the game, at least 3 or 4 mini patches since it's released. I think that they're gonna. I think this is gonna be like the cream of the crop game at some point. It's gonna take them a long freaking time, but I think they have the money and the time to put into it to where, like, they will be able to buff health a little bit or buff weapons to where it's like more manageable to play with, but. To me, I think the biggest thing is like if they increase the time to kill just by like 15 to 20%, it'd be a much better game.
Yeah, I'd be fine with them even adding just a shot, like one bullet, almost essentially, whatever the equivalent of that would be for every gun, percentage wise. But I don't think the maps will end up being the fix. They could end up helping, but the thing is they've already made the maps, so if that does help, it's because they've already made them that way. But I don't think they can go back and retroactively start changing maps around, which I wish they would. But
yeah, that's one thing. I think some people are kind of in a fantasy land about the maps being able to like fix everything, because I think there's more to the issue, and I don't think they will ever change the time to kill universally across the board. I think it's going to end up more than being fine tuning guns, and maybe the guns as a whole are a little bit weaker. Or they, instead of, so like right now the M4 and the MP5, I think pretty much everybody other than the shotgun would agree are the most universally used guns, and they're the best guns. It's just no matter what situation you're in, the M4 can compete. No matter what situation you're in, the MP5 can compete. And the other guns, you're really just putting yourself at a disadvantage to using. And I don't know if their fix is going to be to balance the M4 and the MP5 back towards more guns like the SCAR or the M14 or the Kilo or whatever it may be, or like Drew mentioned in terms of the time to kill. I'm going to be interested to see what they do.
Yeah, I will be too. I think, like you were saying, the whole thing to me is about, I don't think any weapon should put you at a competitive advantage or disadvantage when you use it, as opposed to just completely situational things, obviously, like a sniper at range or a shotgun up close or something like that. But, it sucked so far to have to feel forced to use overkill and carry around a 725, or else you're just going to be worse than everyone else in the game. I think, to me, what would actually be a good fix is either buffing player health, which I doubt that they will do. But what I do think they can do is, like you were saying with the guns, either decrease some of the damage that they do, or maybe even with like your submachine guns, decrease the damage they do at range so that they're way worse at range. Something along those lines. But just or even honestly, another thing I thought of too is adding recoil to all of the guns so that they're harder to control. I mean, I would be fine with that. I've never had a problem in the past controlling aggressive recoil once I figure out the recoil pattern. I don't think the FAMAS in Black Ops 1 was actually a low recoil gun. I just knew how it recoiled.
Comparatively, it was actually really high. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So maybe something along those lines. I think it's going to be hard for them to do without fundamentally changing the game. So I think it would have to be something kind of subtle like that. But I mean,
I think the recoil thing is actually a good idea that I hadn't thought of, because if you actually look at this game has a faster time to kill than any Call of Duty that's ever been made, and has some of the least amount of recoil with any Call of Duty that's ever. I mean, you have some of the easiest guns to shoot in Call of Duty history with the fastest time to kill. I mean, and with maps that encourage camping. I mean, the entire thing is systematically created to slow down pace of play, which maybe they'll stick with it. But it seems like they're starting to get the feedback that's pushing them towards kind of getting away from that.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you on that. Like, it does seem like, I will say, I do feel like the 725 days are finally slowly coming to an end. I've run into less and less and less of them, and the Claymores too. I mean, it's dude, the first month was fucking rough.
Well, dude, it was ridiculous, man. I remember it was the first week I think they were playing, and I stunned a Claymore, because in old Call of Duties, if you stunned a Claymore, it like would delay the trigger. I stunned a Claymore, ran in the room, got blown up. I was like, okay, well that doesn't work. Next time I went up, shot a Claymore, blew myself up. I was like, okay, that doesn't work. Put on EOD, ran through one, still. I was like, okay, well I guess this person can just have this building. I'm gonna give up now.
Well, one of the like, did you say that? One of the I don't remember who said this on Twitch or YouTube, but they said that one of the developers was basically quoted as saying that their idea and like concept behind the way they laid the game out was that if someone is up like in some tower in a point of control on the map, and they have claymores and all this stuff set up as defenses around them, they want it to be almost impossible for someone to overtake them.
Fun game. Sounds cool.
Exactly. That sounds awful. And so, if you're the first person to get up there, cool, you win. I don't understand like how that's competitive. I don't understand how that's fun.
Gonna make a how to camp video on YouTube.
I mean,
millions.
Dude, I kid you not, I watched a YouTube video like a week ago that was titled like how to like, if you're struggling with Modern Warfare, here's how you get better. And literally the kid was just showing people how to camp better the entire video. I was like,
it's like, dude, pitch a tank, throw a fire, hang out. It's like some Claymores.
Claymores, resupply, shotgun.
I will say though, I am glad it's coming to an end. I think, at least like I said, the shotguns. The shotguns were the thing that got me the most. It was almost as bad as the dual akimbo days back in Modern Warfare 2. Like,
well, when we played on Saturday, Drew. I mean, I still had a class that was running around with the 725 just because that's been the best gun in the game. And I used it a handful of times up close and got hit markers at point blank range because I guess I hit him in the arm or something. And so that was kind of the last straw for me, which I'm glad happened. Like, I mean, that's what I want to have happen. But I was like, okay, this thing is definitely starting to suck a little bit. Like, it is definitely not the same thing that it was, which I don't ever want to have to use a shotgun. If I'm using a shotgun, I want it to be because I'm trying to meme people or I'm just bored. But like when I have to use that because that is what gives me the best chance to kill someone, I don't want to play that game.
No, that shouldn't be the meta of a game to have a shotgun as part of your class.
Once again, Call of Duty, as much as they're trying to make it, it is not a most realistic shooter on the market. That's not what it is. It's not what it's ever been marketed as. All right, and I understand the shotguns, the use behind them, but even in the old Call of Duties, if you're really going to make a shotgun realistic, it's going to kill way longer than it always has. But that doesn't mean it conduces to a fun game and what Call of Duty's always been known for. That's not the way the games have always been played and the way they've been created.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, there are tactical shooters for a reason, and I think, I think they're just trying to do too much. I think that they've looked outside of their bubble a little bit too much and just started to pull from areas they don't need to pull from. Like what they had was a great game, but they needed to tone down all the jetpack stuff that's a personal preference. I hated that. I know a lot of people liked all of that movement speed. To me, that's too much going on, and it gives me a headache, and I just can't. I don't want to do that. But when they start pulling from all these other things, I think they're like I said, they're stepping outside their lane a little bit. It's like go back to what made Call of Duty 4. Like at that point, Call of Duty 4 was like the greatest game ever made, or at least anyone that I talked to. That was
Halo 2.
Yeah,
Halo 2 and COD 4.
Yeah, and those were like the best two games ever made. And that game, you could again, could you put anything on your gun other than a red dot and a suppressor? I don't remember any other attachments.
I mean, besides like fast mags, not
Yeah,
really.
no, I mean I think that was like it. Or you could put an
It
ACOG
might have had
on.
extended. Yeah, it was an ACOG. I don't even think they had extended mags yet. I think it
So,
was just ACOG.
and you had some perks, and you had 3 kill streaks, and everyone ran the same stuff. So I mean, and
Well,
that
and
game
that
was
was the
awesome.
great part about Halo and COD right there, because they were out at the same time. They were still fundamentally different.
Yes.
They were shooters, but they were very, very different, and it attracted two completely different types of gameplay. Um, and I mean, the only other game that I can really think of shooter-wise that was still around at that time, that's always still around now, is Counter-Strike. But once again, fundamentally different.
Hmm.
It's a completely different playstyle. They're all contributing to these different things, and now Call of Duty is trying to just combine them all at once, and that's not the way these things work. You have different markets and different crowds for a reason.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree, and I'm like I said, I'm interested to see what they start doing with some of these upcoming patches and whether they actually start. They've already listened to the community a good bit, but I still think it's very obvious that they are not pleased with the reaction the community has because that's how they wanted their game to be, and they're getting backlash over it. So I'm interested to see how much they give in to the backlash they're receiving and how much they actually stick to their guns and kind of keep their nose up in the air about it, and kind of have this our game is good the way it is type of vibe, even though it clearly isn't. Um, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's a very strange thing for Call of Duty that a lot of other games don't have because it is on a yearly.
Hmm.
That this decision to do things and change things or to not change in a timely manner is actually really important because I know, as much as some people say they're going to stay and play Black Ops 4 or something for the next year, that's fine. I'm not. I'm just not going to. Like, I don't have the time anymore, and I want to do something new,
Yep.
Um, and so, I am impressed with how quick they've been, but it needs to continue to be that way, and it really can't afford to, take this 1 or 2 month gap because, if you lose people by March or April, you've lost them. They're not coming back to the game. Doesn't matter how long it's been. All right, they're going to move on to something different.
I mean, it's kind of the same argument that we've had in the past with PUBG and Bluehole. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Yes. Good
Yeah.
point.
it's been constant. Now look at it. I think that like top streamer usually has like 1,000K, and it's always some random. It's just to me, they got to fix it quick, and I
It took
think
too long. They took too long to fix a great game, and because of it, it suffered.
Yeah, I logged 1,200 hours in that game, and I stopped playing it because I wouldn't fix anything.
well, I mean, it's like you think about it. They had that, and then you freaking Apex did the right thing. They said, "Oh, we're gonna have a beta," and the beta is the drop his actual game, and it was a great freaking game. It was an awesome game. It was a battle royale that everybody seemed to like. I mean, I can get arguments with the shields being too big, but other than that, like it was a pretty good game, and they listened to what people wanted. But yeah, I think I'm excited to see where Call of Duty goes just from the nostalgia standpoint. I mean, shoot, we still go back and play Black Ops 3 or Black Ops
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, 1, 2.
All of them. I mean, if it's like even Master Chief playing old school Halo, even Halo CE, Halo 2, Halo 3, like it just there's something that just need a nail. It could be the game of like the generation to kick Fortnite out and the kids like talk about
Please God, kick
Modern-
Fortnite
yeah.
out.
You know-
Good
It'd be-
Lord.
I agree. That game sucks. One of the things that like related to like what you guys both were talking about. So, when you've got a title that is appealing and popular and everyone's playing it and it's in the limelight, things like when the community wants something and you choose to fix or not fix it, like you were saying, in a timely manner, can make or break the success of the game. And I don't think these developers realize how crucial that time period is, where you have a big chunk of your fan base clamoring for something that are not devoted to the game. And like, it come hell or high water. And if you don't fix it, like those players are just gone and they're not coming back. Like you guys were saying, you have a small percentage that's very loyal to certain brands, but in general, so many companies are making such good games now. If people get impatient with something, they're just out. And when it comes to them catering to the bad player or the beginner player with these games, saying that they want them to have a good time and be favored and the good player to have a worse time, I don't understand that logic, because to me, the good players are the ones who actually keep the game going. And especially since this game, all the DLC is free, the only thing they're going to keep making money off of is when they drop stuff like weapons packs, or I read that coming up they're going to start having battle passes similar to like how Apex is and PUBG have.
Camo stuff and things like that, I'm sure.
Yes, and to me, the good players are the only ones that are going to end up paying for that stuff. And I say that because if you're a bad player and you stick around, you're going to get better. So eventually, in theory, you become a better player. So I don't... If you've either stuck around that long or you're already good and you're going to keep playing, those are the players that are going to be making you money. The bad players who bought this game because it came out and they had nothing else to do and, played till they got to like level 37 and got off. Well, I mean, that's not who's making you money.
I think a big point just to add on to that is the people that care about your game are the ones that are keeping track of these changes and keeping track of whether or not you're actually doing something. 10-year-old Jimmy down the street whose mom bought him the game for Christmas or his birthday doesn't know if you're making a patch, doesn't know if this gun is better than it used to be.
Good point.
Doesn't care. All right, they're going to mindlessly play it and sit there because that's what they have and that's all they know. But the fact of the matter is the people that have been supporting your game for the past 10 years, the past 5 years, are the ones that are actually keeping track of this stuff and are actually, have something to compare it to.
Yes. I 100% agree. And those are the ones that are going to keep it going. And those are the ones that are actually posting about it. Those are the ones who were around for all the other Call of Duties and will be around for the future Call of Duties. And like you said, not the kid who's going 3-20 and is having to get off because he has to go to bed or has to go eat dinner or has to do his homework. Like those are not the kids that are making you money off this game. Yeah. So,
and they're also not the people that are advertising your game either. Whether or not you think of YouTube or Twitch or whatever is a good or a bad thing for these type of things is whatever. But the fact of the matter is they're a big sponsorship and a big viewership draw for your game. And if you want to keep those viewers, you need to do something to appease them. And those are the people that are going to care about this stuff because they're playing it all dang day.
Yeah, underrated point actually. But I think one thing, like part of that's spot on, is when you think about the Twitch streamers and the YouTubers that are making content for this game. Whether you're a good or a bad player, a lot of people in both of those camps are following these I'll call them public figures in the video game industry or in the video game world. And so when you have somebody like, let's just say either Nadeshot, who's on one, obviously a very popular player, or even just a big YouTuber like it's like Aliyah or something, Drew. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yes, that guy. Thank you. But anyway, one of those guys, say you have them on there and they're getting millions of views on their videos and they're either complaining about the game because of changes they won't fix or promoting how good of a job they're doing. Like I think that has an underrated stake in public opinion and moving the needle. Because people's minds are just so easily influenced to begin with. When you have someone that they enjoy watching, they're just going to take their opinion and mark it down as fact. And so if they say, no, this game's trash, like, I don't even want to play it really anymore, then
a million people think that now. PUBG streamer, y'all remember Break?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
He had a brief period, like when COD first came out, where he was like a sponsored Call of Duty streamer. Like I guess they were paying people to whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think he streamed it for like 2 days and then stopped playing it. And somebody asked him why he was playing, because he still plays PUBG actually. Somebody asked him, like, why'd you stop playing? He just basically said it wasn't fun. I was just shotgunning kids the whole entire time. I didn't like it. And that's somebody that's drawing, 3K to 5K viewers from a PC perspective who could bring in a slightly different market for this game, who probably half of those guys maybe weren't as experienced in Call of Duty, aren't even going to buy the game now. Mm-hmm. If you have a streamer who's paid to play the game and advertise the game, who gives up on it after 2 or 3 days, why the heck would they play it? Why would they buy it? Makes no sense.
Dude, that's pretty bad. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah, in the top of his stream, like in the top right corner, it would say like sponsored by Call of Duty or something like that. He played it for like 2 days. Someone's paying you to play a game and you make it 2 days.
And you're like, nah, I'm good.
Keep your money? Like, are you kidding me?
Yikes.
Thanks for flooding my pockets. Now I'm gonna go do something else.
Yeah, this is trash. I'm gonna move on.
I will say, if the one man that's always said everything best for developers is Dr. Disrespect, dude. Everything he says, I've always agreed with.
Yep.
They would just listen to that guy.
He's got a unique perspective too, being an old map developer.
Yeah.
Did y'all see when he was on stream one day and he was actually like editing a map on stream?
Yes,
pretty cool.
I saw
Yeah,
that.
well, I didn't watch it for long, but it was like 5 minutes. It was pretty cool. And then he got
Well, I
some.
always thought. I always
Oh,
thought
no,
that he
you're
was just some dude. I just always thought he was like he always fluffed up how his his reputation used to be, and that like he always had this is what they need to do, this is what they need to do, and then he pulls up a freaking map, and I was like, all right, yeah, this guy knows who he's talking about. I mean, I knew, well, everybody knows who he is, but still, it's like, oh shit, this guy actually.
I know he developed at least 3 or 4 of the maps, like in Advanced Warfare, which I know a lot of people hated the game. I actually liked that game.
I didn't mind it as much.
See that one? I get that one mixed up with
It was the very first Exosuit game. It was the very first one.
Where you could wall run and everything.
What's
No, you
weird
couldn't
is
wall run yet.
all of the
No.
other all
Yeah,
the
see,
other
I'm
was
the
in
same
Black
then.
Ops 3.
So what was the exosuit? I'm gonna have to like look this up.
all the Call of Duties out. So I know Black Ops 1. Well, okay, Call of Duty 4, Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare 2, and then outside of that, all of them blend together to me. Literally every single Infinity Ward and
Black Ops 1
Treyarch
was
title
actually
blend
in
together.
Maybe 2. So it went 4, World at War.
Oh,
Yep,
this
okay,
is
I
the
remember that.
Advanced
and-
Warfare was the double jump on, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
You could do some crazy stuff in that game.
I remember most of them by the gun that I used. I don't really remember much about what the game actually looked like. I mean, I do, like I said, the titles I did mention I do, but outside of that, I don't.
Advanced Warfare, I think the ASM-1 and the BAL, the BAL, were the 2 main guns.
Oh, is that the one that had those variations you could get in care
Yes.
packages?
Yes.
Oh my god, and
Yeah,
they were
the overpowered
busted. If
ones
you
that
didn't
you
have
could
them,
get.
dude, if you didn't have them, you lost. Yeah,
I spent
no,
way too fucking much money
so
on that
Spence,
game.
I know. Yeah. No, I remember that because
As every other one.
Cause
I
we
got
know-
the busted FAL like on the second day of playing, and I didn't realize how like crazy that actually was. I was like, yeah, this gun's really good. That's like all I used for like 3 weeks straight. And I looked up, people were spending like hundreds of dollars trying to get
you're
this
like,
gun.
oh
I
no,
was like,
because
okay.
the reason. So what happened is I actually initially bought that game when I had a PS4.
I remember this.
And the reason I know this is because there were whatever the 2 busted guns in the game were, or 2
ASM-1 and
variations.
the BAL.
I got one variation of one of the busted ones on PS4, and then when I sold my PS4 and all the games, and I got it for Xbox, I was like, well, shit, now I'm not gonna have any of the good guns. First box I opened got me the other one. I was like, oh, like,
Call of Duty
cool.
loves me.
Yeah, I remember that one. But like Call of Duty Ghosts and like Modern Warfare 3, I barely play. I know you love Modern Warfare 3, but I
Modern
never
Warfare
played
3,
it.
I think, was one of the more underrated Call of Duties. I actually think it was a really good game.
I just don't remember it at all. I don't remember Black Ops 2 or 3 at all.
Black Ops 2 is good. I wasn't a huge Black Ops 3 fan. That was the game where they introduced wall running. By the time that game came out, it's not that I even think Black Ops 3 was bad. I just didn't really enjoy it. It just wasn't really my style.
Yeah.
I was just tired of the wall running exosuit gameplay. And again, I don't think it was a bad game. I really don't. I just was kind of over that period of Call of Duty, having it like 3 or 4 years in a row.
I don't want there to ever be wall running and double jumping. And you can do, I mean, that's why I don't want to complain too hard about this game because like, I don't like the camping.
It's just so easy to though.
Right, but it's like
Yeah.
but I don't like the camping, but there's a part of me that almost still likes that better than the wall running. I hated the wall running. That to me is not a Call of Duty game. That turned into like Titanfall or something, but it wasn't Call of Duty to me.
I was the same way about it because I specifically remember you and I sitting on the couch. We had probably had a few beers and we were playing that game, and all of a sudden you'd shoot at somebody and they would do that stupid double jump exo crap and jump over your gun and then land behind you and kill you.
Yep.
And it's like, why? That's not how a modern Call of Duty game should be.
I want it to be fast paced, but I want it to be boots on the ground. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess at that point you're getting kind of picky, but like to me, it's just like keep the core dynamics the same, but just really focus on the gunplay. Really focus on giving premium maps. Like that's and the graphics. Like improve those 3 areas in every rendition of Call of Duty, and I will be a happy. I don't want to say happy camper. I'll be a happy camper for like every single year it comes out with one. But I don't. They try too much to like overhaul and add all these new features that like and no one ends up liking. It's just like
Yeah, I think the jetpacking thing, I understand why people like it. I do. I get it. And I can even understand how people argue the fact that it takes more skill because there is
I
more
agree.
going on.
yeah.
I'm not going to argue that. I think the thing is though, kind of the theme of what you mentioned, if you want a game with jetpacks, you should look towards Titanfall. I think it should be a different game. I think
Yes.
there's a market for it. Like
Mhm.
I think there is. I just don't think it should be the same game. And I do think while there is a type of skill with it, it's also a different type of skill because it's adding another element of not being able to predict movement. And I
Mhm.
typically, from my perspective, the more predictable a game can be, the more skill based it's going to be. Right? If you are able to predict routes and predict movement, it's going to be more gun skill related versus more movement related, or more randomness, or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
I agree. I mean, it's the when you start adding in all of like the well, it kind of goes actually almost like one of two ways to me. It's like by adding in all of the jumping and the double jumping and wall running and all that stuff. It's like it really I think it allows better players to just like I think it brought like even further widens the skill gap because you
Yeah.
take a pro who's going to just be able to take full advantage of that.
If you watch
Um,
some of the pro players, like in their movement back in those older games, it was nuts.
oh, I'm
Like
sure.
I remember, they was the last game Black Ops 4? That was the last game, right?
Yeah, the yes.
We had Blackout. Yeah, okay. And at the end of Blackout, they released an update where they put in like jetpacks in like this arcade version of it. And Formal,
Oh,
who
yeah.
was like, yeah, it kind of looked like Borderlands. They changed like the
You have like the infinite
art
grapple.
scheme. Yeah, you had infinite grapple and you had jetpacks. And I was watching a Formal, who's like a pro Call of Duty player, play it, and it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he literally had Doctor Disrespect, I think, bet him like 100 sub bomb or whatever, gift subs or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah,
That he couldn't drop 35 kills in a game, and he did it like in back-to-back games.
yeah. What?
I mean, literally, he would grapple to a spot and like exo jump multiple times, and so he would go from like point A to like 100 yards down the map, and would be like zigzagging in the middle of the air while shooting at the same time.
That's insane.
Dude, I'm about to go
Yeah.
look this up on YouTube as soon as we get done.
And it's wild. I don't know if he posts stuff on YouTube, but watch some of his gameplays from that like blackout mode.
I did see when Doc posted something or I watched a video on Doc's channel that was talking about like they had some pro. It was like a pro. You had to partner a pro with the streamer in like a doubles like blackout tournament or something like that, and he was talking up Formal because that was ended up being his partner and they won. So I was like, oh.
Formal was a monster.
I'd never even heard of that guy until like a few months ago.
He was a Halo pro.
Dude,
He turned pro in Halo Reach, and then after Halo started dying out, he left and went into COD, and was like on Optic Gaming for a year or two. Was on LG for a year or two. I don't know what the current situation is. I don't follow it that much anymore, but
right.
the guy's a monster.
Well, random side note related to Halo Pros. Me and Nathan were playing Call of Duty like a couple weeks ago, and we got into a game against someone with like the gamer like it was their what I know it's not their actual gamer tag, but their thing on there was Snipe Down, who was a old Halo pro, and Nathan was like, dude, I wonder if it's actually him, and so like we pulled up his stream and it was him playing in our game, and dude got smacked. like yeah, I mean they like nobody else on his team was doing anything, but he had like 70 kills or something like a domination game.
I was about to say that kid. I mean, some of those guys are they're good at video games, man. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what they're playing. I think Snipetown actually is like a really good Apex player now. Actually,
Really?
he's like, yeah, he plays Apex, like competes in tournaments and stuff.
I mean, if you're good, it's crazy to me because I watch some of these streamers and like one of the things I like watching about streamers is especially going from different games but in the same genre is that it's like all of their brains just work at a level mine doesn't. And when I say that, I mean like if they understand, like say they go from being a Halo pro and now they want to be a Call of Duty pro, it's like they can make the shift from knowing everything they need to know about Halo, and they it's like they fundamentally understand how Call of Duty is totally different and what the efficiencies are now in Call of Duty compared to Halo. It's like
Oh, the gun skill there and the team fights and stuff like that, I think comes really quick. I know the only game mode that people always struggle with that come from Halo is Search. Like at a really high level of Search, obviously grasping on a basic perspective, but on a really high level, I think that's the only game mode that's ever really given any of these Halo pros that have came over any issues, because there's been like 3 or 4 of them now at this point. Like Formal came over. Crimsix was actually old Halo Pro.
Oh, yep, I know who that is.
There was Enable was a Halo Pro. Like there's like 4 or 5 of them that have came over and have been successful.
Well, apparently Crim6 is like the winningest pro Call of Duty player like in history, which is kind of crazy. That I guess that wasn't even his first game.
Dude drives like a $200,000 Porsche.
Casual.
Yeah.
He plays video games.
Yeah, we're all doing something wrong in life, but it's fine. Subscribe to our podcast.
sick plug.
Look for our podcast on wherever you get podcasts from.
Spotify, YouTube,
iTunes,
Apple
SoundCloud. Shameless plug.
It's whatever. We'll look back at this in a year or two from now, and it'll be even funnier because we'll be saying it every time.
Yeah, actually, it'll get pretty automatic. So we're about 40 minutes in, so it's that time, Spencer. We're gonna do a segment at the end of everyone. So a lot of this stuff we're gonna plan on talking about a little bit beforehand, so everybody has an idea of what we're going over. But we're also gonna try and keep a little bit of it random towards the end, where somebody just asks an off-the-wall question just to get some of our creative juices flowing. So Spencer has a question, I guess, that he has thought of for me and Drew. So Spencer, take us away.
So this one, like Al kind of mentioned, typically sometimes they will be about gaming, sometimes they'll be about something completely different. Just because it's kind of our first main episode, I figured I'd keep it more gaming related and kind of more focused on what we were talking about. But going back to DLC and the maps, I wanted to get y'all's opinion on, do you guys think it is a good idea to re-release old maps as DLC maps? Do you think it is beneficial? Do you think it is lazy? Do you think it is something that they're just trying to cater to the community? What is your opinion on re-releasing DLC maps from previous games?
So I think it is a good idea, and I also think it's lazy. If I can say both.
Yeah.
So Drew mentioned this earlier. He mentioned which I think is a keyword, nostalgia. When especially from, and I'll mention us because we're all 27, 28 now. Some of like our fondest memories are playing some of those old Call of Duty games back when we didn't have a care in the world and we could just know life maps like Crash or Black Ops 1, like Summit, Nuketown, some of those maps,
Yeah.
Shipment, playing 1v1. But I think that's, if you like break down like why do you play video games? For me, it's like a way to like unwind, escape from the day, do something I enjoy visually, talk to my friends. So anything that like invokes some of those old positive emotions, I think is a great thing for people. I think when a lot of those maps have been, historically acclaimed sounds really over dramatic, but like the community as a whole, like some of these maps are the greatest thought of maps in Call of Duty franchise history. So, you already know they're good. So I think it's a win-win on their part releasing old maps, especially when the new ones they've created, in my opinion, suck. I don't trust them to create new maps that are going to actually be good right now in this game. It's because their whole mindset is doing something different that I don't like. So yes, and then at the same time, I do think it's lazy because it's kind of like, well, we've released all these new ones that aren't really working, so we can't figure it out. Let's just throw them some old stuff that we know works.
That's the only thing that scares me, man, is I feel like this constant, like, think about the Call of Duties we've played and we've loved, and these DLC maps they're bringing back. What's the most recent game that you would consider bringing back one of their maps as a DLC? Black Ops 2?
To be honest, I don't. Yeah, honestly, what I was going to say, Black Ops 1 or Modern Warfare 1 or 2.
Like, where's the, where's a Ghost? Where's an Advanced Warfare? Where's an Black Ops 4? Where's a Black Ops 3? Like, who gives a crap about any of those maps? Because like,
well, no, great point. And just to add on to that really fast, you're 100% right about those maps. Like, they're not good maps, but a fundamental problem with that at the same time, a lot of those maps were designed for wall running and for boosting, and so you couldn't even do that with the boots on the ground style of gameplay. And I mean, so no, not that they were good, and that's the only problem with them by any means. But you know, there's just certain spots you wouldn't even be able to get to. But they still suck.
The way I look at it is I'm the same way with it. I see it as a nostalgia thing. Like, if you look at it, like, gamers, us are getting older, right? Like, but they're also like, I mean, back when we were kids, like, they didn't have people like our age talking about video games and having streaming platforms and stuff like that. Now they've kept us around this long, so they're technically reintroducing old maps to a new player base that have no idea what any of these maps are.
That's
so
fair.
to me, it's a playbook that Bungie has done for years with Halo.
I didn't think about it being new to many of these people. Actually,
I didn't either. That's a good point.
That's a good perspective. Yeah.
So it's like, you know, but it's like, you know, Bungie did that with Halo 2 maps into Halo 3, into Halo ODST, into Halo 4, and even remade it, I think, even in Halo 5. Well, no, Halo 4 I think was the last one. But yeah, like I can't remember the name of it. The one with, I mean, shoot, they remade Blood Gulch like 4 times.
It's the best map they ever made. It was like the first one.
So exactly. So to me, it's like, yeah, okay, like in Black Ops 4, like, no, I don't ever want to play any of those damn maps ever again in a boots on the ground one. But if you pull it in Modern Warfare, an MW2 map that, like, you know, like, it was one of those ones that's like, yes, I can't wait to play this one because it's going to be one of those like 50-2 games that y'all used to have.
Or like Terminal.
Yeah, like the ones that everyone because I guess it was Modern Warfare 2 or probably MW4. The best ones. I don't think that there was a map on that game that I didn't like playing. And if I didn't like it, it was just because somebody was better at it, aka you guys, and it would be boring as hell for me. But
no,
like, even
on our team,
you don't have to worry about that anymore. Don't worry.
Yeah. But I'm even just saying, I think the rolling out the old stuff, if they do it right, and they don't just freaking reskin them, like, or like make more corners and stuff for people to hide in. If they make it and force people to fight each other all the time, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, like I said, I really didn't think about the perspective of it being actually a new map for at least half the fan base. I didn't think about that.
I mean,
it's a 10-year gap now, so it's like, you know, 18-year-olds are playing it and they've never played that game before.
On one side of the thing, you have a nostalgia thing for your returning players. On the other side of the thing, you have really a new experience of a map that's already shown itself to be enjoyable from the community perspective for the other part of your community. I don't want to get through this cycle of, you know, what, like in this game, think about this. Like, if you were to re-release maps in this game for future DLC and a future Call of Duty, like Gunrunner, maybe.
Yeah.
What else are you re-releasing? You're not re-releasing anything.
Well, and you know, they're only, you know, in those old Call of Duties, there were so many maps that people like universally loved, and like I wouldn't even, and I agree with you. Gunrunner is easily my favorite map, and I actually think it's a really good map, but it certainly isn't beloved enough for them to like re-release Gunrunner in a future Call of Duty. Like, half the people would be like, "What the hell is this map? I don't even know what this is."
Yeah.
Like, that shitty one from the beta from Modern Warfare. Like,
it's a crappy try-hard remake of Summit or something almost. I don't know. Like, it feels like it was modeled after Summit to me, but just in a really bad way.
I can actually see that.
I don't know why it reminds me of Summit a lot, but
I agree with you on that one. But I think that's what I was
way better.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think that's kind of what I was getting at too. Is it, like, I think the reason they had to drop Gunrunner is because of people like us bitching about the maps not being like the old ones with the 3-lane. It's the only 3-lane map in the game. Besides, I guess Piccadilly, now that they've changed it, sort of, but there's too many damn cool.
You know, the maps in this game are trash when I can literally think of like the name of them. I don't even know the names of most of the maps.
I know them all just because I hate them so much.
You know what it is? There's Gunrunner, Shoot House, and then all the other shitty maps that I hate. That's pretty much the way it is. And Shoot House, depending on the day, can be one of those.
Bane of my life, Piccadilly. Fuck that map. I
think the only maps that we can, the three of us, I feel like we can agree on.
I like Hackney Yard. Okay.
Are like the ones that are closest related to a 3-lane fight that we're so used to playing in all of the Call of Duties. And that's why they have to release the old ones. I don't think they can make new ones that people are going to love. Well, I mean, they might, but they'll just be a reskinned version of something else, I think.
And, you know, one of the problems is, too, I mean, like, you could take this from the perspective of it's going to be harder and harder to come up with new, innovative map designs that also satisfy the desire to have traditional map designs as they create more and more of them. Now, to be honest with you, I find that kind of a half-ass excuse because you've got, I'm sure, some of the most creative minds in the industry coming up with some of these maps. So I don't really buy into that. But I mean, you could still
the
make
life
the
of your
argument.
game, man. You either
Right,
make
right.
good stuff or your game fails and somebody else takes over, and you can't use
I
that
agree.
as an excuse.
No, wasn't giving him an excuse. I'm just saying, you know.
No. I'm
it's-
saying for their perspective, they can't use it as an excuse. That's business, man. People come
Yeah.
up with new models all the time to replace things. You're either gonna fix it or you don't.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's, you know, and you've got so much time. I mean, I'm sure, you know, Treyarch right now is designing their levels for next year's Call of Duty, and you've got 12 months to come up with better designs. I think they need to go with a model of simpler is better. They're trying to get too complicated, add in too much detail to these maps, too many crevices, too many barrels, and all sorts of crap that you can get behind or lay down under. And it's like, dude, give me my couple pieces of cover on each lane. You know, make them visually gorgeous, make the gunplay flawless, and you know, and I honestly, one of my favorite things this game added compared to other games is all the attachments. I think that stuff is super cool.
They did it really well. They did it really well.
I agree. I think adding all the attachments in is awesome. I like the fact, and which we haven't even discussed yet. I like the fact that instead in prior games with attachments, you know, you get a grip. What does it do? It helps you with recoil. And that's pretty much it. Well, in this game, I love the fact that they gave you trade-offs. They say, what do you want your gun to do? That's cool, but now we're going to make it worse at this. So I like by giving you the pros and cons, I think that's cool because it makes you think more about like what is the objective with the class I'm creating, right? I mean, like the easiest example is a run and gun close range class. You take the stock off so that you can be super fast, aim down ADS, movement speed, and now you can't control recoil as much or aim is stable, you know, whatever. But I like the fact that they make you think like, what am I trying to build here, as opposed to just like, yeah, this seems good. Yeah, this seems good. Okay, cool. We'll just roll with this. So like that was one of the best additions to the game, I think. So if they focus on gunplay, the graphics, and keeping things simple and just producing very beautiful traditional 3-lane maps, like that would be a game I would play all year until the next one comes out. But as of right now, it's not looking like that's going to be the case. So now
I think even a good idea for them to take, just to be really quick. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
I think it would be cool if they could rotate maps in and out, kind of like Counter-Strike does. You know, you find 6 maps that are proven to work well. You have them in a 1-month cycle, then you rotate into 6 other new maps. And it gives you a way of finding a solid gameplay and still keeping the game fresh throughout the cycle of the game. I don't know, it's just a different idea.
No,
I like the old filter. You could pick the maps you wanted to play and turn
the
them
map
on.
That
vote.
too.
Well, that too, and the map voting. Like, why did they get rid of the vote to skip, pick one? Like,
so
Yeah.
my theory for that,
Give me jungle.
my theory for that, why they did that is the same as my theory for why PUBG did it, is because they know no one's gonna play some of their shit.
just Gunrunner over and over again, I guess.
I guarantee you would have 50% of the community in Gunrunner the entire day, and then you would have certain maps that never get played. You'd have 3 people on Piccadilly playing Search and Destroy
Cave.
1v2. Yeah, and Cave. Nobody. I would never play Cave. I would never play Piccadilly. I would never play Graz in a raid unless you guys wanted to play it.
Yeah, I like that map more than you do, but
It's
I will say
it's
there's
still not a great map.
no.
there's another thing that we'll have to bring up another time. We've talked about all the ones we hate. Half of the ones we don't even play because we don't even touch 10v10.
Oh, that's true. I like.
Yeah, maybe if my Xbox wasn't about to blow up anytime I got a 10v10 map.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the problem. I only know of like 3 or 4 10v10 maps, one of which is Graz in a raid, which I don't like, so that automatically deters me from playing it.
I only like the only one I like is that bridge one, but it's
I
only
like the
if
bridge
you
map.
decide.
Yeah.
Well, so I think we've hit most of the things we wanted to talk about today. One of the things I do want to do probably in the next one is I want to come up with some of our maybe all of us give like our like if we had to only play with one, we all make one create a class that we can use for the rest of the life cycle of the game. Our ideal setup from all the attachments, perks, everything, just to talk about it and see what everybody's using. I hate to say it, but I can already almost bet my life we're all going to be using some variation of the MP5 or M4, but that's the way it's
I'm
gonna
already
roll.
thinking, like, M4.
Yeah, I mean, and then maybe we can also come up with one or something that uses one of the non-meta guns too, just to keep it a little bit more interesting. But we can start off with that next time. Maybe talk about some of those specifics, some of the attachments that we like or favor over others. You know, our favorite sites. I don't know, something else. So
Next time we'll also be able to talk to you guys about our impressions on the new patch with the new maps coming out as well. So we'll see how these new we didn't really touch on it tonight, but we've got some new COD 4 maps coming back to hopefully refresh the game a little bit, and we'll hopefully be able to give you guys an opinion on those and how they play next time. Hopefully good. Yeah, cross your fingers.
Fingers crossed. And so I believe those drop. It drops Tuesday or Wednesday. Today's Monday.
It drops tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay,
Tomorrow.
cool.
The 3rd.
Well, then we'll try and crank out another one of these this weekend after we've had a few days to play with it and get our opinions together on that. But so I guess unless you guys have anything else, I think with that we can go ahead and conclude this podcast. This has been the Level Up Podcast with Alan, Spencer, and Drew. Until next time, guys, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.